Hello. In this lecture, we're going to see how the hierarchy from the pivot acts in the geometries. So let's create a box for this example. And before that, let's go inside this viewport by Alt plus W as always. Now let's go to box. Let's hit and hold the control key and then give this a height. I'm going to go to my clay view. So let's go over here and select clay. And now I'm going to press F4 to see the lines. Now, if I go here and select my W so that I can see my gizmo for the moment, I can see that the pivot of this box is down here. But what if I want to change it? And why would I want to change it? Because if I want to scale, for instance, let's hit the R key. If I want to scale it, this scaling is going to be happening from where the pivot is. So what if I want this to happen maybe at the middle of this object? I'll be going here to affect pivot only. So this way I'll be able to move the pivot to wherever I want. I'm going to hit W just to move it. And I'm going to tell it that I want to move this to the midpoint. So for that, I'm going to hit my S key to activate the snaps. And I'm going to find the midpoint. You can see now that when I have this diagonal cross line over here, it's telling me that that's the midpoint of that segment. Now let's unselect this affect pivot only, and let's go back to our scaling. So you see how that affects my scaling now. Now it's not going only in one direction, but it's actually acting in both directions. So it's very important to have the pivot positioned in where we want it to be. Now let's make this an editable poly. So right click, convert to editable poly. And what if I want to detach one of the faces from this box? So it's easy to do. Now, if I go ahead and select this face by just clicking my 4 key, and let's say that I don't want this face to be part of this geometry anymore, I would go down here into edit geometry, and here we will find the detach. Just going to hit that, and it's gonna tell me if I want to detach this as an element or as a clone. For the moment, I don't want any of these, okay? So I'm going just to hit OK. Now, if I would select detach as clone, it would overlap the face that I have now and just create a clone of it. Now, an element is just an individual object, and it will no longer be a clone of it, but it's going to act just as a different object. But for now, I just want to detach it. So I'm going to hit OK without selecting any of these boxes. Okay, now I'm going to unselect my polygon so that I can select this new one over here. Now this is a separate face now, so it's a different edible poly now. But you can see that the gizmo is still attached to the original object. So to just center it to my new object, let's go to our hierarchy. Let's see affect pivot only and change this pivot to center this plane here. So I'm going to go to center to object. As easy as that. Now I'll be unselecting the affect pivot only. And now I'll be able to move this precisely. All right, so that's it for hierarchy. It's very simple. It's just the controlling of the pivot positioning, but it's a very important element that we have to take into account. Now, just moving on, just to finish what we can find here at this right command panel. We also see the motion, and this is basically for animations, and now we have the display. So once we're here in the wireframe, for instance, we can say if we want to see the object's color, or if we have applied any material to the objects or geometries, we would just select the material color because I would want to see that. So this is for wireframe unshaded, and it's basically how we want to see our display of our viewports. But for the moment, we're going to just leave it as it is. We also have the height down here. And for example, we can also access this just by right-clicking an object. For instance, if I select this box and right-click, I will find this option that it's called hide selection. So we can also see that over here. So I'm just going to hide selection. And if I want to unhide it, I would just right-click and press the unhide all. Now I can also isolate this. So let's say if I have multiple objects here, and by the way, I'm just going to copy this just to make this example, but it's a good opportunity to show you this. So we have the number of copies here. I don't want to just copy it once, I want to copy it 10 times. So it's going to automatically copy it this element 10 times. So let's say that I want to just isolate this object. I would right click and I'm going to hit the hide unselected. So it's going to hide everything that I'm not selecting, like this. Now Control Z, and that's the way this hide options works. Now we have the display properties, and this option can be pretty helpful sometimes if we just want to hide certain faces while we're moving around. I'm just gonna select the border and cap it like this, and let's go back to our display properties, and here we can just say that I want to backface cull. So it's going to basically just cull the backface from this geometry. I've pressed F3 just to enter this mode. Okay, if I just select this backface cull and not see any hidden lines, I can also go back here, and let's say if I'm at the default shading, okay, I can just select this and make it a see-through. So see-through can also be accessed with Alt plus X. So this makes the geometry transparent, which is very helpful when we're modeling an interior scene. So now, moving on to utilities, we have here the perspective match, which we're going to be seeing more of it later on. We also have the reset X form. This is really helpful when we import objects and they're not really linked with 3ds Max, or they're not working properly with 3ds Max. We would just reset X form so that it grabs all of the properties from the software. But don't worry about this, we'll be looking at it once we have all of our rendering objects going on. So that's it for this lecture. It's been a very quick one. In the next one, we'll start to see how the modifiers can be stacked into an editable poly to get more interesting objects going on. Bye bye.